If you drive anywhere in the United States, the month of February in the year 2026 could quietly become one of the most expensive periods of your life. Not because gasoline suddenly doubles in price, not because your car payment jumps, not because interest rates spike or inflation creeps higher. The real threat comes from something far less visible and far more systematic. A new wave of driving regulations is preparing to take effect all at once, and most drivers still have no idea how dramatically the rules of the road are about to change. These changes did not arrive with loud debates or dramatic announcements. There were no constant alerts on evening broadcasts, no urgent mailers, no widespread public campaigns explaining what is coming. Instead, they moved quietly through regulatory meetings, committee approvals, and administrative updates that most ordinary drivers never follow. By the time the public hears about them, the systems will already be built, the contracts already signed, and the enforcement tools already installed. What makes this moment different from anything drivers have experienced before is not just the rules themselves. It is the way those rules will be enforced. In the past, traffic laws depended largely on human beings. An officer had to witness something, make a decision, and physically pull you over. That process naturally limited enforcement. There are only so many officers, only so many hours in a day, only so many cars that can be stopped. Now that limitation is disappearing. Technology is taking over the watching. Cameras, sensors, databases, and automated verification networks are stepping into roles once handled by people. These systems do not get tired. They do not blink. They do not show discretion or offer second chances. They simply record, calculate, and issue penalties. And when enforcement becomes automatic, it scales to millions of drivers at once. That shift changes the financial risk of driving in a way most people are not prepared for. We are not talking about occasional warnings or small tickets that sting, but can be managed. The new structure relies on fines that begin in the hundreds of dollars and quickly rise into the thousands. Some penalties accumulate daily until the problem is fixed. Others trigger suspensions that make it illegal to drive at all. And in many cases, you will not even be stopped. No flashing lights, no officer at your window, just a notice that appears in your mailbox days or weeks later, informing you that money is already owed. For months, there were subtle hints that something larger was developing. Transportation agencies began upgrading their software. Departments that rarely received funding suddenly purchased new monitoring equipment. Databases that used to operate separately started linking together. Insurance companies adjusted their risk models. State motor vehicle offices quietly retrained staff and updated procedures. Individually, each change looked small. Together, they formed a pattern, a coordinated preparation for enforcement on a scale drivers have never experienced. By the time the timeline became clear, one thing stood out. The launch would not be gradual. It would not be a slow experiment in a few cities. It would be a synchronized activation. Once the systems go live, they begin working immediately and continuously. There is no long grace period while people figure things out. The penalties simply start. What makes this especially risky is how unaware most drivers remain. Ask around, and you will hear vague rumors, half-understood headlines, or guesses that it cannot really be that different. That gap between reality and awareness is where the financial damage happens, because the system does not wait for you to catch up. It does not pause until everyone is informed. It just records violations and sends bills. The first major change focuses on something most people never think about, even though it already sits inside their vehicle. Modern cars contain devices that record driving data. These small recorders track information like speed, braking force, and steering input during critical moments. For years, they mostly existed for crash investigations. Now they are becoming compliance tools. Vehicles built in recent years are expected to have these recorders functioning properly at all times. If the system is damaged, disconnected, or shows signs of tampering, that alone can trigger a significant fine. What used to be background technology is turning into an inspection item that must pass verification. The deeper impact is how this data connects with insurers and investigators. Driving behavior is no longer just a matter of opinion. It is documented and time-stamped. Disputes about how fast you were going or how hard you braked are replaced by precise records. For careful drivers, this may sound reassuring, but it also means there is almost no room for ambiguity or forgiveness. Your car is no longer just transportation. It is a witness that remembers everything. The second change may affect even more people because it targets insurance coverage. Instead of relying on a paper card or a digital image on your phone, coverage is now verified in real time through connected databases. License plate readers, toll systems, and patrol vehicles can instantly check whether your policy is active at that exact moment. If there is a lapse, even a brief one caused by a delayed payment or a processing issue, the system flags it automatically. There is no warning period built in. The first violation can carry a steep fine. Repeated flags can lead to suspension of your driving privileges until proof of continuous coverage is provided. What makes this dangerous is how common small gaps actually are. A bank error, a missed auto payment, switching providers, and misaligning dates by a day or two. In the past, those gaps might have gone unnoticed. Now, the system checks constantly. Time is no longer a buffer. The third change addresses distracted driving, but it does so with technology far more advanced than most people expect. Detection systems positioned at intersections and along busy roads analyze what is happening inside vehicles. They look at hand position, device placement, and movement patterns that suggest texting or scrolling. There is no officer deciding whether you looked down for too long. The system evaluates images and data against preset rules. If it decides you were using a device, a violation is issued. Fines increase with each offense, and repeated incidents can lead to mandatory courses or temporary loss of your license. The challenge is that phone use has become almost automatic for many people. A quick glance at a notification may feel harmless, but to an automated system, it is simply a measurable behavior that triggers a penalty. The fourth change transforms speed enforcement. Instead of measuring how fast you were going at one specific point, average speed is calculated over long stretches of road. Cameras note when you enter and when you exit a zone. The time difference reveals your average pace. Slowing down near a camera no longer helps. If you drove slightly above the limit for several miles, the math exposes it. Even small, consistent excess speed can lead to tickets. For commuters who travel long distances daily, this creates repeated exposure that adds up quickly. You cannot argue with a calculation. The system simply compares distance and time. The fifth change involves emissions. Sensors placed along roads can analyze exhaust output as vehicles pass. If a car exceeds standards, a notice is generated automatically. Drivers are given a limited window to fix the issue. Miss the deadline and daily penalties begin to accumulate. Continued non-compliance can lead to suspended registration. Repairs to emission systems are often expensive. For older vehicles, costs can climb into the thousands. That turns what used to be an occasional inspection into an urgent and ongoing financial pressure. Taken together, these rules create something entirely new. Driving is no longer loosely monitored with occasional human judgment. It becomes continuously measured, constantly verified, and automatically penalized. Every mile produces data. Every system cross-checks another. For some drivers, especially those with newer cars and stable finances, the impact may be minimal. For others, particularly households with older vehicles or tight budgets, the risk is much greater. One fine can lead to higher insurance costs. Higher costs increase the chance of a missed payment. A missed payment leads to more penalties. The cycle builds on itself. That is why preparation matters more than ever. Checking that your vehicle systems function properly, ensuring insurance payments are never late, fixing maintenance issues early, adjusting habits around speed and phone use. Small steps taken now may prevent large bills later. Because once these systems are active, they do not negotiate. They do not forget. They simply enforce. And for millions of drivers, the most expensive part will not be a single ticket. It will be realizing too late that the rules changed quietly and that every unnoticed detail has already been recorded, calculated, and priced.